let's move into round three and let's talk about some listener questions. So the first one is in reference to Kevin Lee. What do you think he needs to do to improve his submission defense? This is his third time getting tapped. I think this is his third straight way of losing. As maybe that might not be right, but this is his third time getting submitted. He was submitted by Tony Ferguson, Rafael dos Anjos, and now Charles Oliveira. What does he need to do to work on his submission defense?
Let me ask you a question. Didn't he also get submitted with Rafael dos Anjos chasing a takedown, and then he got reversed or something? If I'm correct.
I don't remember. It was by head and arm choke, so I could see that happening if it ended up in a scramble. But I don't remember how that fight ended.
I feel like a lot of these fights get lost in these scrambles. Like, people tend to think Kevin Lee is some high level elite wrestler. All the people I talk to who are MMA fighters or high level wrestlers keep telling me a different story. They're like, he's okay. He's like, yeah, he can wrestle, but he's not like a King Mo. He might not even be a Josh Koscheck. He's not like some guy who's just some Phil Davis or even Ryan Bader. He's not that kind of wrestler. So I don't know that Kevin Lee's wrestling is as great as he thinks it is. I know he's definitely not the physical athlete that he thinks he is. I think a lot of the problems come through with the fact of the matter that he's getting submitted because he's getting submitted in these scrambles. He's putting himself in bad positions because he's overestimated his ability to A, get out of them, or B, control people on the ground. And often he gets into scrambles and gets finished. That's pretty much it. I don't know that he's essentially just being out-grappled from beginning to end so much as he's not able to hold position, and he gets desperate in trying to hold position or trying to regain position and sets himself up and gets caught in transition. It's like it's a lack of focus. It's a lack of discipline. It's not a huge mistake he's making. It's like in the details. It's like it's not like he's missing a whole step. It's like a math problem. In English, you can be kind of close, or you can spin it any way you want to make something make sense. Because there's dialects, there's tone, there's stories, in the process of overall writing. But when you're talking about math or science, it's either this or it's either that. And a half a milligram of this changes the whole composition of something. And to me, that's what Kevin Lee is. He misses out on fine details because he tends to get panicked when put into dangerous situations. When he's in control, he doesn't make these mistakes. When he's comfortable and he's calm, he's fine. But when he's starting to take over control and really start putting on somebody, or when he feels like he's in danger, he tends to press a little bit. And he gives the guys opportunities to finish him. It's just mental mistakes. I don't even know if it's a technical. I think he's skillful enough to avoid submissions and technical enough to get out of submissions. But it's like he just mentally chokes and puts himself in position and panics once he gets into it, and then he gets finished. That's the way it seems to me. You're more of an in-depth grappler than myself, so I'd pose the same question to you. What do you feel? Why do you feel like he's getting submitted like this? Because I don't think it's just pure skill. I really think it's mental mistakes.
Who does he train with? Where is he training?
He's training with Zahabi now.
Yeah, Faraz. And I mean, Faraz goes. GSP always went to Henzo to get his jiu-jitsu training in. I'm not sure if that's where Kevin Lee is going as well. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not. But the mistakes he made on Saturday were like I said, the type of mistakes that come at an early point. He got that single leg. If you notice, the way Damian Maia finished his single was completely different against the way Kevin Lee attempted to finish their single. They were going up against two guys who could both finish from that position, if need be. So and you can say that Damian Maia's wrestling isn't fantastic, but his wrestling is enough to allow him to employ his ground abilities. So there's something about what Kevin Lee is doing that's not helping him in these types of fights. He did the same thing against Tony Ferguson. He shot for a takedown and ended up getting triangle out of it. So it's the same situation there. He needs to figure out what he's doing from a wrestling basis, mixing his strike to his grappling to his wrestling that is causing him to make these type of mistakes that sees him get finished by high-level grapplers. I think that's really the big issue there.
It seems like he just gets desperate. Like once he starts taking a couple shots, like he doesn't have the defense to roll and flip and parry, like to duck under a shot and then go for takedown or to fake. It's like his footwork. It's like people always say striking can't help you with wrestling, but it can if you have like Damian Maya uses very specific pressuring footwork to get guys up against the cage without him even really striking. He's in a position where he forces guys to throw at him, and he can get those clinches or body locks, force him up to the cage, and slowly drag him down. Kevin Lee doesn't have that. He doesn't have good entries on his footwork. When you press him, he goes straight back. He doesn't know how to dip off at an angle, change levels, and get a takedown. He doesn't know how to just to duck under strikes to get a takedown. It's all very reaction. It's all very forced. It's not reactionary. It's all very forced, and it's all very desperate. He's taking shots from too far out. He's chasing them when he clearly doesn't have them. He's leaving his neck out when he shouldn't. It's like it's just basic mistakes that seem to come when he either gets comfortable, he lulls himself to sleep, or he's in danger. He just overreacts and panics. And according to Kevin Lee, his corner told him everything to do, but for some reason he just didn't do it. So if he's getting good direction and he's been trained well, the issue is that mentally it's not coming all together for him. To me.
Yeah, something isn't coming together for him at all at this point, and it's costing him against some of the higher level competition.
Yeah.
The next question I want to ask is about Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler said he's going to test the free agency space after his fight with Benson Henderson. And let's say he wins that fight, gets another victory there. Where should Michael Chandler go? Should we finally see him make a run in the UFC, or is he well too past his prime at this point?
If I was him, I might try the PFL. He's a big enough name to get a good sized contract going in. They'll pay him good to be there, and then he always has a chance of winning that $1 million. And it's against guys. I mean, 55 is deep, so everybody's dangerous. But given the athleticism he still has, the fact that he can still wrestle, and that he's competed at some of the highest levels, he's very experienced and seasoned. It might be worth a shot. I don't know that the UFC is going to pay him what he wants, especially coming off of some of the losses. Even some of the wins he's had, he has not looked dynamic and spectacular in years. He's lost. His chin does not seem to be there. His ability to recover does not be there. And if the UFC pays him a lot of money, they are not doing him any favors. They're throwing him in the deep end of the pool immediately. And there is a line of guys who would love to take a shot at him. Khabib would, Tony would, Gaethje would. I don't know who else. I don't know who else would want a shot at him. Even Charles Oliveira at this stage would. And given how vulnerable and how he seemed to half step slower, and he doesn't seem to like getting hit or take getting hit very well anymore, I think at this stage, even Charles Oliveira is a dangerous fight for this guy right now. It's probably in his best interest to stay in Bellator. They like him. They empower him. They promote him. They've made him probably a bigger star than he would have been at any other organization. And he's got decent competition, but not all the guys in there are flawed enough that he can navigate his own physical flaws and his own technical issues. Once he gets to the UFC, there's nowhere to run and hide. They're going to put him in with a name, and there's a very good likelihood he gets knocked off in a very punishing and somewhat and possibly embarrassing fashion in the UFC. Offensively, he still has the skills, but I don't feel durability-wise, defensively, he can hang with the better guys in the UFC at this stage.
I definitely agree with you there, man. I think it's best for him to go to the PFL too and snatch a big contract while he can. Go into the UFC, you know they're going to throw him in with someone ridiculous like a Justin Gaethje or something like that right out the gate. That's just not going to go well for Chandler at this point in his career. So I think he should go over.
Gaethje would want that fight. Gaethje would want that fight bad.
I think he stops him. So I think going over to the PFL is the best bet for him. The last question I wanted to ask was Roger Mayweather passed away today at the age of 58. This has been a pretty tough week for Floyd Mayweather. He lost his child's mother last week, and he loses his uncle in training, main trainer this week at 58 years old. What will be Roger Mayweather's legacy as a boxing trainer, in your opinion?
Well, it'll be interesting because he was also Roger Mayweather. Unlike Floyd's dad was a highly ranked world-class fighter. Roger was actually a world champion, a very, 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 very good fighter. So it's one of the few times where you have a elite world-class fighter who also turned into an elite world-class trainer. He's really the guy who developed Floyd's offensive game. When Floyd stopped using Roger, he started fighting in a more defensive manner. He started being more looking for those pot shot counters and controlling the fight with distance, movement, and positioning. When Roger was his coach, he placed a little bit more emphasis on sitting down on his punches, throwing more punches, and being more vicious offensively, whether it's in clinches or whether it's in exchanges. At a certain point, Floyd, I think it was after maybe the Cotto fight. I think the Cotto fight was the last one that Roger ran exclusively. After that fight, Floyd got hit a little bit more than he wanted to, and I think he let his dad take over, and the emphasis became almost exclusively being defensive in nature. Being more defensive and just picking his spots offensively. Roger was a good trainer, but he didn't have a lot of success with like a lot of fighters. He wasn't like a Freddie Roach who had 6, 7, 8, 9 world champions, but he was a guy who brought Floyd up, and he was really the guy who coached Floyd through the Pretty Boy Floyd years, and that's when Floyd was really at his best. When he used to throw volume, he used to hit with power, he used to get guys out of there. He used to be exciting. He was still defensively sound, but he was exciting. He would punish guys. He would embarrass guys. Later on his career, as Roger played less of a role, Floyd went back to fighting smart, controlling distance, controlling angles, using his jab and breaking guys down with pot shots and little sharp counters. But when Roger was still running things, Floyd was a much more offensive fighter, and that was the Floyd that a lot of people fell in love with, and the Floyd that a lot of people still consider to be the best Floyd of all time, because that was a Floyd who was equal parts offense and defense. So he'll always be associated with that Floyd Mayweather. And some people will jokingly say that he was a great trainer because he made Floyd Mayweather entertaining. And after a period of time, Floyd Mayweather's fight stopped being entertaining later on in his career, when he went back to more of his roots as far as being a technical defensive boxer.
Good thoughts there, sir. Good thoughts there. So let everybody know what you're working on this week, and let's go ahead and close out for today.
I'm still working on some camp-related type articles, just as I see so many fighters come in ill-prepared, or so many fighters just basically come in ill-prepared. It's really embarrassing that people pay all this money and they have the wrong scouting report, and they've focused on the wrong skills coming into a fight that could change their life for the better or the worse. It's just shocking to me. It's concerning to me, but I guess nobody else cares. I guess I'm the only person who seems concerned by this, so I'm still gonna write about that. I'll be doing an article on Daredevil, breaking down his fighting techniques from the Netflix Marvel show, and then I'll probably be doing a Black Widow one, and that movie probably comes out another month and a half, 2 months, and I'll do one for that as well.
No, man, that one got postponed indefinitely.
Oh, really? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I guess I'll just have more time to work on that, and then I'll just it's really hard because, especially with this virus thing, it's really hard to justify writing stuff when you don't know who's going to be fighting and the severity of the issues. But I feel like the camp thing is always something that always can be covered, whether it's women's mixed martial arts or men's mixed martial arts. I feel MMA camps are just routinely subpar, and the few fighters who have good ones are often the fighters who who get to the top and stay at or near the top for the majority of their careers.
True. Good thoughts there, sir. I am going to close the show out. I'm covering the same stuff I've usually been covering every week. So check me out for MMA, mixed martial arts, MMA content, professional wrestling content, and everything in between. As always, as I said again, you can find our shows over on MMA Ratings Net. You can catch our content there each and every week. That's where Adam Martin is doing most of the bulk writing, and you can find our YouTube podcasts are embedded there. As always, you can find us on YouTube for MMA Ratings at MMA Ratings, where our content is posted after these podcasts every Tuesday, and also the professional wrestling podcast I do once a week. You can find that there as well. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Google.
Before you close out, I have 2 things I have to say.
Go ahead.
Real quick. 1, we love talking. If you have any issue with any article we wrote or any comments you have regarding the show, feel free to engage us on the website or contact us on Twitter. We love explaining our points, and we love defending our points. We have no problem interacting with fans. In fact, we look forward to it. 2, and this is strictly a fight thing, I just have to make this statement for people who question the greatness of Anderson Silva. You do know that Anderson Silva did better against Israel Adesanya than Yo Romero, a three-time title contender, title challenger, Robert Whitaker, a title champion, and Derek Brunson, who was a top 5 middleweight. He landed more significant strikes than all three of those guys landed against Adesanya combined. 3 world-class guys, all top 5 fighters, got outdone by a 40-year-old man coming off of repeated injuries and who isn't half the fighter he used to be. Let's not look down on this man's greatness. That was a great showing he had against Israel Adesanya, better than 3 of his last 4 opponents put up against him. And we're talking about an old man who hasn't been elite in probably close to 4 to 5 years minimum, probably closer to 7 years. So once again, just want to say that from my man Anderson Silva. We need to appreciate him because once he's gone, he will be missed.
You're right there, sir. You're right there. So we're gonna go ahead and close out, man. We'll be back next week, most likely to kind of cover where we are in MMA space. May not be as long of a show, but we'll be back next week. I'm sure some news will break between now and then. But with that in mind, man, let's go ahead and close out. Thank you, everyone, and have a great week.
See you later, guys.